You are listening to SFL Radio.
You're listening to the Owner's Box podcast on SFL Radio. Now here's the host of the S.O.B. and my bongo-playing compadre, Stephen Mullinax. All right.
Welcome to the SFL Owner's Box. The S.O.B. is a weekly 30-minute podcast that covers all the headline-worthy topics from this week in the Simulation Football League, a.k.a. the SFL. For the uninitiated, the SFL is the ultimate sim football experience that features real-life users as players, coaches, and owners. With 2 fully commentated games a week, full stat tracking provided by DaxStats, fantasy football, and much, much more, this is the ultimate sim experience for football lovers everywhere. Find out how you can get involved at simulationfl.com. That's simulationfl.com. On a very special show today, I'll have a conversation with the one and only Cameron Irvine, Commissioner of the SFL and play-by-play commentator. We'll talk about the Week 3 results, preview Week 4, and I'll ask Cam what has surprised him so far through the first 3 weeks of the SFL season. Here's that interview. Hope you enjoy. So Cam, first of all, I want to just ask you, how are you doing?
Doing good. We're 3 weeks in to a 14-week season. Of course, it's a little bit longer this year with the 2 bye weeks. But we're nearing the 4th of the way mark, and I think people are talking about the sky is falling and everything is horrible with their teams. They have no shot, and it's that time of the year when everyone is overreacting to every result. So
yeah, it's way too early to do that. I mean, we're still just figuring out who these teams are. Speaking of that, I thought me and you could go through the list of results from Week 3, talk a little bit about those, talk a little bit of preview of Week 4, and some exciting matchups there, and then talk about, I know it's only been 3 weeks, but maybe some of the surprises in your mind, some of the things that caught your attention. But we'll start off here with Week 3 and your Sunday showcase, Dallas at Mexico. Dallas winning 30-27 in a real nail-biter. We talked about this off the air a couple days ago, but those 2 fourth downs by Dallas there at the end of the first half and at the end of the game, we really hadn't seen anything like that. Those kind of chances being taken, and they both resulted in field goals. Which in a 30-27 games is basically the game. Well, what were your thoughts about that? I know that you had mentioned that in all the games that you've done, you hadn't seen anything like that before.
Yeah, I thought that our first week of going back to our traditional play-by-play format was two of the wildest games we could have had. In 400 games, I've never seen a team go for it twice on 4th down each before the half, when they didn't necessarily have to go for it, and then each resulting in made field goals. And then in 400 games, we've never had a fire alarm interrupt the broadcast either. So we had such a good time with all these games, and that Dallas Mexico City game is gonna live on in infamy. Those games that things happen and you've never seen before, and then they never happen again. Those are the SFL classic type games, and if Dallas does anything super productive this season, they're going to remember that victory as potentially a turning point.
Moving on here to Atlanta at Tallahassee. Tallahassee, obviously the only undefeated team in the league right now. They beat Atlanta 34-20, but it was a closer contest than the score really indicates. Atlanta had a lot of hype coming off a bye week in their opening victory. This game was 27-20 with 5:04 left in the 4th quarter, so this was a lot closer than what it shows. But I really think the key to the game was E.T. King, the quarterback for Tallahassee, staying clean, no interceptions, 33 of 44, 352 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, a T-Pat offense rarely makes mistakes in the turnover department. It's rare that you ever see a quarterback throw 3, 4, 5 interceptions, in a T-Pat offense. And I think that the difference in this game was you saw a team that was a little bit on its heels, Tallahassee, coming in because they almost lost a home game to Carolina. They almost choked that one out, and Atlanta hadn't played in 2 weeks. They had crushed a team that people normally don't crush in Baltimore, and so I think Atlanta was coming into this game really not thinking that they needed to do too much, and they had a ton of confidence, whereas Tallahassee was coming off a very close victory, and they knew that they were going to have to be on all their P's and Q's. And, kudos to Atlanta. You got a rookie owner going up against a two-time champion offensive coordinator and an owner that's been in the league for 2 years. And Atlanta certainly hung with them, but I think that may have been the difference there for Tallahassee.
Speaking of Baltimore, Baltimore at Carolina, it was also a Week 3 matchup with Baltimore coming out with victory 23-14. Again, another tight game. The score was actually 13-14 at the 7:22 mark in the fourth quarter. The thing that stands out for me here was really the play of the running backs. Johnny English, 197 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns, and you can't come away with the win. But then on the other side of it is Robinson, and I know that Sioux Falls gets all the public flack about being Swing City, but the Crabs are really Swing City now, with their running back getting 22 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown. He has 61 receptions in 3 games.
Yeah, I think what's become apparent this season is that Baltimore's a good team, but they're not necessarily the prettiest team to watch on the field this season. They're not going to win very many games, with one-handed grabs and incredible plays that are just highlight-worthy plays. They're just, they're right now they're 10th in total offense. They are 12th in rushing offense, but this team's defense is so good, and offensively they're just sort of dinking and dunking people to death. And we'll see how far Baltimore can go with that. But I certainly wouldn't want any part of that defense over the last 2 weeks. They've held teams to a combined 31 points after giving up or having a bad first half against Atlanta. They sort of stopped the swarm in their tracks in the second half, or at least in the fourth quarter. So it's a team that has found their defensive identity, and it's it's not necessarily the pretty way to win, but Baltimore has consistently always won.
Speaking of limiting a team in points here, this is the biggest blowout of the week, was Alaska at L.A. Alaska failed to score a single offensive point after the 4-minute mark in the second quarter. And really it was a game about Doug Bose, who not only is the owner and coach over there in L.A., but he's the star player, the running back, ran for 271 yards and 3 touchdowns. Really just ran all over this Storm team.
Yeah, Los Angeles is a team that I think is really turning a lot of heads, at least on paper. They have a fairly good cross-conference schedule as it's turned out for them. Away games at the 2 worst teams in the East, Carolina and St. Louis, again, just based on record. And then home games against Baltimore and Atlanta. That's a lot of miles for those 2 teams to travel all the way to California. So this squad has the potential to be 6-1, 5-2, getting back into the swing of Western Conference play if they can take care of their business. And right now they're doing it with Bose, who right now is averaging close to 200 yards a game.
Really, looking through these, we really had some really great matchups. One of those is Queen City at Sioux Falls. Although the score is Sioux Falls winning 44-20. Queen City led this game 20-17 late into the third quarter. until Sioux Falls had an offensive explosion there. So Sioux Falls, even though they're running an unusual team build, they haven't seemed to lose any of their offensive muster, and their defense is stacked full of stars.
I think this was a classic case of Queen City playing in its second game and Sioux Falls playing in its third game. I think Queen City is still trying to find themselves offensively with these new pieces that they have. Caswell is certainly a gunslinger, but they've got all new receivers, or mostly new receivers on the outside. Marcus Allen Bose is a very different type of running back than what Queen City has had in the past with Parkey Chol and T.E. Haynes. So I think there's going to be these bumps in the road for the Corsairs, but this team, maybe more than any other team in the league right now, has tons of untapped potential just because of what they were able to do against St. Louis and how they were able to hang with the Sparrows on the road. They haven't even played a home game yet. So Queen City's got a lot to look forward to, I think.
Yeah, speaking of a lot to look forward to, I think Las Vegas is playing well. Has been underrated, especially in the power rankings here lately. But they go into Houston and they lead 24-7, 7 minutes into the third quarter, or 7 at the 7:23 mark. Excuse me, in the third quarter, a 24-7 lead. And they end up losing it in just an amazing kind of coin flip of fortunes there. For me, the player that really stood out was Cody Cantrell, 292 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. The previous week he had thrown 5 picks versus Mexico.
First off, I want everyone to make fun of Stevens, speaking of transition, because he's used it about 4 times in a row. So I hope you do that in the comments section. But 2 things stick out to me with Houston and Vegas. Number one, Houston is tops in the league in pass defense. They are giving up just 189 passing yards in their first 2 games. That is unheard of in the SFL. So that pass defense is incredible. The second thing that sticks out to me is that Vegas is a complete baffling mystery to me. Rick O'Reilly is having the greatest season of any player in league history, in my opinion. This man he's averaging 11 tackles a game, and he's a defensive tackle. These are not stats that we're used to seeing out of defensive linemen around here, and he has just been unbelievable. But the offense has struggled. They struggle with the bronze receivers on the outside. It's very early, but Vegas's games certainly have been bizarre. They're averaging, I think, 11 first downs a game. They're struggling to move the ball, but Rick O'Reilly has literally been the entire force of this team, and he is the most interesting player to watch in this league, in my view.
Speaking of Sin City,
there it is again.
Well, yeah. You just challenged me now. Let's go ahead and preview some of the games here in Week 4, all of the games. Like I said, speaking of Sin City, the 1-1 Las Vegas Gamblers at the 1-1 Oklahoma City Renegades. Obviously, Oklahoma City had a bye week last week. Again, we talked about Vegas. A mystery to you, I think, playing better than most thought they would. And Oklahoma City coming off a loss in Week 2 to Los Angeles, 34-24.
This is the Renegades' first home game. Like Queen City, they had to wait a long time for their home opener. I think this game could come down to Pete Bruschi. Vegas is 12th against the run, and Oklahoma City, when they won, had a great game out of Bruschi. When they lost, had a bad game out of Bruschi. So I think it's all about, can they establish the run? We certainly have seen an improved Joseph Redfeather, is playing much better than he's played in years past. So, but I don't think that he's still a quarterback that Oklahoma City expects, him to carry the entire offense like a Mac Wavy Jr. or a Julian Tyree. So Bruschi's going to have a good day on the ground. For them to win. Well, I can't say they must, but I think it's a pretty crucial element.
Well, that Brewski O'Reilly, that's going to be something to watch there in that game. The 0-2 St. Louis Gladiators at the 1-1 Atlanta Swarm. Kind of a battle of the newbies here. St. Louis, both teams really have a lot to prove. Atlanta proving that they're as good as they have seemed here in their first two contests. And St. Louis really just needs to get off the snide and get a win.
St. Louis just needs to figure out how to get a stop. Back-to-back 50-point games they've given up. They're giving up bunches of big plays. St. Louis just needs to figure out how to keep offenses in front of them and give Jalen Thomas an up-and-coming quarterback that people are really excited about watching. Give him and Park Heachul a chance to be in a game in the fourth quarter, and let's see what they can do. So I think it starts defensively with them. It's a very tough matchup because Atlanta certainly has proven that they know how to play some good offense, and Skelter P-Funk has a quarterback rating of over 100 and is playing some efficient football. So pretty interesting matchup there.
1-1 Houston Hyenas at the 1-1 Queen City Corsairs. On paper, this looks like a battle of two very strong running backs. Of course, Bose coming off that 151-yard, 2-touchdown game, and Hawkins 121 yards himself in his last game. But maybe the bigger storyline is the quarterbacks being able to stay clean.
Yeah, this is, and not only clean, but clean on their jerseys, not to get too dirty. Up in Buffalo, the forecast is a little bleak. Could be some freezing rain. Could be some, we're not really sure, but it's looking like it could potentially have some bad weather. But Houston is second in the league in sacks. They have 10 in 2 games. Queen City is first in the league at preventing sacks. They've only given up 2 in their first 2 games. So can Houston get a pass rush on Caswell, force bad decisions, which he had plenty of in the second half against Sioux Falls? I think that could be crucial. And of course, it's a rematch of the season 6 title game. We always love those rematches.
One of the really big matchups in my eyes here in Week 4 is the undefeated 3-0 Tallahassee Pride at the 1-2 Mexico City Aztecs. Like you said, a T-Pat offense is an efficient offense, didn't turn the ball over a lot. But this is a Mexico City secondary that has gotten a lot of turnovers here in the last couple of games, 11 on the season, 6 alone against Dallas.
Yeah, this is compelling, and actually if you combine their fumbles into the equation, it's 13 turnovers they've forced. So they've forced 2 fumbles in 3 games. How often do you see that? So they're hitting guys hard, and I think you hit the nail on the head on this one. This is the most compelling, I think, statistical matchup of can Tallahassee stay turnover free? If turnovers become an issue for Tallahassee, is that enough for them to get knocked off from the undefeated perch? There's so little separating 3-0 and 1-2 in the SFL in season 8, and so this is a really difficult matchup for Tallahassee as they begin cross-conference play.
That leads us to the 2-1 Sioux Falls Sparrows at the 1-2 Alaska Storm. Alaska's offense is averaging a league low 14 points per game, but they are returning home, which they've been on the road the last 2 games, which accounts for their last 2 losses. So their only win was against Mexico City in their home opener. Will returning home help that Storm offense?
Yeah, Sioux Falls at home has scored 38 and 44 points. On the road, they scored just 17. And last season, when Sioux Falls played Baltimore, actually they haven't met for almost a year now, and Mighty RX wasn't even a part of that squad. So from a matchup standpoint, it's something that we haven't seen before. And this is about Alaska's offense. Can they put some points on the board? Can they give themselves a shot? They sort of have the exact opposite problem that St. Louis has, in that they just need to give their defense a chance in the fourth quarter in a close ball game, because we saw what happened the last time Alaska was at home. They beat Mexico City and held them to 17 points and did just enough offensively, got a big play out of special teams. So, are they going to be able to? It's very difficult for Alaska. They've got 9 star defenders to deal with. How are they going to combat it? That's why they pay these coaches the big bucks, right?
Yeah. Finally, the last game in week 4 that we're going to cover here. 2-1 LA Sharks at the 0-3 Carolina Skyhawks. Carolina has lost their last 2 games by 7 and 9 points respectively, and their last game was their first home game, and it was the lowest margin of victory there. So, is home cooking going to help the Skyhawks to get their first win?
I mean, anytime a team has to go from one coast to the other, it's a difficult matchup, and this game has the top 2 running backs and the top 2 run defenses in the league. So I think this is going to be an all-out war in the trenches. I think you're going to see 80 broken tackles. I mean, these guys, more than anybody, just shove it down your throat, and should be exciting to see, if Carolina can really emerge out of the shadows, because they haven't over the first 3 seasons of their franchise. Can they emerge like Los Angeles did last week? They're over 500 for the first time since Doug Bose took over.
So I wanted to talk really quickly here. I know you don't have much time, and I appreciate you taking the time. So after the first 3 weeks of the season here, what surprises you so far, either through the numbers or through the games? I wrote a couple things down, maybe to spark some things. I think Tallahassee's 3-0 start is interesting. Sioux Falls with that non-star running back and only 3 offensive stars at 2-1, that seems to be working. Vegas, I mentioned as a surprise. The Sharks 2-1 start, and then the teams that I haven't got a victory yet. Carolina and St. Louis and their struggles. So what comes to mind here for you from the first 3 weeks?
I think through the first 3 weeks, the biggest takeaway is that this league is pretty hard to win. It's pretty hard to win around here, and I think Alaska and St. Louis and Atlanta all sort of have gotten a healthy dose of that over the first few weeks. Even though they're given the same cap, the same number of players and all that, it can be a pretty steep learning curve at times. And I think we're seeing with Louisville out of the way, with Orlando out of the way, we're sort of seeing guys that have had success in the past continue to have success. Kyle Walsh goes to Los Angeles, they're 2-1. T-Pat goes to Tallahassee, they're 3-0. So you see these veteran guys still getting it done regardless of where they're at, and so people behind them have to figure out a way to step up their game and get those crucial victories, because that's the only way that dynasties crumble and new superstar coaches emerge.
Finally, Cam, we have obviously experienced a bit of a format change, moving on from Red Zone to you doing a fully commentary game, usually on Sundays, as the Sunday Showcase, and continuing with the Game of the Week that Andy Hamilton does, which he does a great job when he's not chasing fires. So, I wanted to give you an opportunity, to speak to those that are listening about that. We had talked a little bit about it off the air. How you're really enjoying, or at least for the first weekend that we've done it here, that this getting to do a full commentary on a game again.
Yeah, I think what the new format does is it opens us up for growth when we need it. I'm not saying that we need growth right now, but I think that this new format of putting games up and allowing different groups of people to interact and enjoy games, on and Chill TV, and just providing this constant content for people. gives us an avenue towards future possibilities. But it's been really fun seeing that environment grow. We're gonna do some experimenting with where we put those games. Maybe we start games at 4, 3, 2, instead of noon. Just trying to figure out where the best place is to structure these non-commentated games in conjunction with our main event games. We obviously want to have viewer turnover in a positive way, to where if a viewer is watching game A, they're going to transition into watching game B, and we're going to keep them hooked, whether it's over the course of 4 or 5 hours, or whether it's scattered throughout the day or throughout the week. It's our time now to experiment with trying to boost our viewership numbers, and trying to really get people excited about not just their player, not just their team, but about the league as a whole. And I think that's critical to our long-term and future success, because we need the numbers to help us chase down bigger opportunities and bigger dreams. So that's sort of what we've been learning and experimenting with over the last few weeks. I think that for the most part, everyone was really happy with the format that we moved to. I can't make everybody happy all the time, but we certainly try to do that. And I think that as the season progresses, I think we're all just having a good time and having fun. That's what's important.
Yeah, and we know that you've had your personal struggles here as of late, but I have to be very pleased with the overwhelming amount of support and love that has been shown to you here in the last couple weeks. And I think that we just don't say it enough how much we appreciate you. And then when we do say that stuff, you shy away from it. But the overwhelming support that was shown to you, that needs to continue, in my opinion. Obviously, when the games are live, we want you there. It's the reason why we do it. Those live games that Cam does the commentary on, and Andy does the commentary on. We need those viewers. I mean, it shows appreciation to them. It helps our league. It makes those things worth it. I know that it's a kind of a DVR type thing, which for some people, they can go and watch it later, but you miss out on the chat, you miss out on the interaction, and the league needs you there. So I really encourage you guys, if at all possible, try to make time to see at least one of those games live a week, if not both. Cam, I know that we have a little bit of a schedule change this weekend because of the Super Bowl. Is that right?
Yes, so we're going to have games Saturday afternoon. I'll have the game Saturday night, and then Andy will have the game Monday night. So we should be releasing our finalized schedule for week 4 tomorrow morning, or